Actually, let's see if I can send it to the cloud. See how that works.
Yeah, that's the, now it's saying it in the cloud. Oh, still need more time, David?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right. Does anyone else need any time before I continue on? No. All right. So next thing we're going to create is actually the item reader. We're going to create within the same file. That starts out with a @bean notation. And then we're going to name it public. It's going to have, we're going to be using the flat file item reader class. I think it's the class. And that's the return type that it's actually going to be as well. It's going to return a flat file item reader. And it's going to be the target data that it's going to be taking in is user in the angle brackets. And then we're just going to name it item reader method. This takes in one parameter and it's going to look kind of weird, but it's going to have an annotation as value. And then within this parentheses, we're going to be naming it the this input field name from our application.properties, because this is where it's going to know to get the resource from. Also, or our CSV file, I should say. And so by doing this quotations with the $ and curly braces, it tells Spring Batch to grab that file or that path from the application.properties, whatever the value is in there, and use it as this parameter. Resource. So we import the right one. It's going to be springframework.core.io for the resource. All right, and within here, we're actually going to create our flat file reader. Again, user as the target type, flat file item reader. And we're just going to set that to a new instance of the flat file item reader class. Then right after that, we just have to set some properties for this item reader. So we're going to call flat file item reader set resource. We're going to set the resource property that we just passed into this method. Next, we're going to set the name. So we're going to use the .set name method. And we're going to name this CSV -reader. That's what this item reader is doing. And now this next part, it's called set lines to skip. So what this is doing is we're telling this reader to skip one line when it's initially read, because that one line that starts the CSV file is our header. We don't want it to actually read that. We just want the data that's actually in each column afterwards. So if you had other information at the top of your CSV file that you don't want read, this is where you would put in the amount of lines to skip so that there's no errors there. And then I think also if there's an issue reading the CSV file, it will skip one line where it encounters an issue. Could be. No. Highly sure, but pretty sure that's what I read on. And then there's another field for set line mapper. We're going to create this next. So we're just going to pass in a line mapper method that we're going to create next, which is actually going to return a line mapper for this reader variable. And then we're just going to return file item reader. So line 55, this should be red right now. We haven't created this yet. I guess do not be right there. Does anyone need more time? Any questions?
No, good.
Okay. So we're going to create this line mapper method now. Again, we're going to use the @bean notation, annotation, not notation. And we're going to name it public. It's going to return a line mapper with the target type of user.
Can I ask you one question? Can you explain the @bean again?
So my understanding of this is very not where it should be, but as what I know, by using @bean, we're telling the Spring Boot application that to Cliff, please tell me better on this, but to associate this bean with for this piece of this method or no, yeah, this method where it's needed in the application. Is that right? Like if
That would be
Spring
the
Boot's
very
looking,
basic way of wording it. Yeah, because they use the term bean because of the term Java. Java coffee, bean, coffee bean. So that's where the term comes from. My understanding why they use the term bean over anything else. Yeah, basically my understanding as well is something like that. This is required item for the application. So definitely something to dig into more. I haven't looked into it because I actually haven't gotten asked a question in a while. So I haven't looked it up recently myself. I wasn't ready for it. I thought you guys actually used bean earlier in one of the previous lessons. So definitely what I would recommend is everyone should definitely know what bean, a TLDR for what the bean annotation is for Spring Boot, because it is used fairly often now. Beans are a common annotation I'm aware of in Spring Boot. So I would highly recommend everyone should have their own way of wording what bean is. If you don't have one yet, you should definitely make one. So.
yeah. So I don't know, but we will look it up later, either as a class or on our own. But so next, we're just going to name this method line mapper. We're going to take no parameters and make sure you import the line mapper class. So within this method, there's quite a bit going on. First thing we're going to create is a default line mapper variable with a target type of user as well, and name it default line mapper. And we're just going to create a new instance of a default line mapper. Our lines, because we're using a CSV file, and this might be the case with other files as well, I just know that a CSV file is comma separated. So we need to tell our default line mapper, or I should say line mapper, that we have a token that it needs to skip. We don't want it reading the comma, but we want it to know that the data is separated by it. So it's called a line tokenizer. So we have to create that. It's called a delimited delimited line tokenizer. So name it line tokenizer. And we're going to create a new instance of a delimited line tokenizer. Now we're just going to set some properties for this line tokenizer. We're going to do, we're going to set the delimiter, which in this case is the comma, because it's separating the data within the CSV file. We are going to set its strict property to false and set the names of the column. So each column names, which is set names for the method. So this is where you put in, like I said, the names of the columns within the CSV file, and you got to put them in order from what I know. So it's going to go ID, and they're each going to be their own. So this is an array of strings. On Java 11, you don't have to specify that it's a string array, but I don't know, depending on, I think older Java versions you would have to specify, but this method and this version of Java is smart enough to know that we are passing in multiple arguments, as you can see, the annotation, the string dot 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 names above. Just do that with the names of the columns. And next we have to create a field set mapper to set the fields to these column names associated with our model. So to do that, we have to create a new bean wrapper instance. Type of user, field set mapper, and create a new bean set field mapper. And then we just got to provide one property for this, and it's going to be its target type as user.class. So this way, so what it's doing is it's mapping the property, the variables of user with the column names of our CSV file. That's what it's going to do for us. And then we're going to use default line mapper again from above and assign its tokenizer. So set line tokenizer to our line tokenizer that we created above as well. And then default line mapper again, and we're going to set the field set mapper to the field set mapper we just created right here. Then lastly, we are returning this line mapper. So to just run through again quick, create a line mapper to read the CSV file. We create a tokenizer that tells the item reader what the token is to skip, that separates the data for each column. We set the specific properties that we need to for the tokenizer. Create a field set mapper, which maps these columns to the user classes variables. And then we just assign those to the line mapper and return it for the method above, the item reader. If anyone needs more time, please say so. I will wait.
Just give me a
Next
second.
one. Yeah. As well, if there's any questions, please ask.
Can you scroll back up to the top of the class?
My bad. Oh, by the way, Cliff, I was watching the video that Arniel did for the cohort 8, like when he was teaching. I can't remember what topic he was teaching on exactly, but you asked if you can make the line numbers disappear permanently.
I
And
did.
yeah, I don't remember. I don't know if you would even
I
remember
wouldn't
that,
like
but
those. Yeah, I would never want that. So
but yeah, you asked if it was possible, and I did find a way to do it, but it is pretty annoying because obviously you want the line numbers.
yeah, I like line numbers.
Specific
I'm
Yeah.
surprised I asked that.
Just right click on that and say no line numbers if you want it. Just right click on the there and just say no line numbers or no indent guides or any of those. You can.
I didn't know that was there. That's funny. I found a different way, but that's really funny.
All right, I'm good.
You good? Anyone else? All right. Head on over to the project panel. We're going to create a new package. We're just going to name it batch. Within here, we're going to be creating our processor and our writer. First thing we're going to create is the processor. We're going to create a new class within the batch package and just name it processor. We're going to give it the act component annotation. And then we are going to implement the item processor interface and provide it with an input type of user and output type as well as user. So you should have a red line underneath this. We're just going to right click and hit implement methods. Show context fixes and then implement methods, and it should be this process method. Just hit OK. This is the method that's actually going to get ran when our item processor is called. And before we move inside of here, we're actually going to create some variables or a variable for this class. And this is where we're going to be actually altering the data. So what we're going to be altering is the department names. Instead of them being like numbered 001, 002, 003, we're actually going to give them a name. And what this is going to do is take in the data with the number, alter it to the actual name of the department, and then send that to the writer and write that into the database. So what we're going to do is create a private final. It's going to be a map with the key value pair of string and with key values of string and string. These are going to be named department names. We're going to set it to a new hash map. And inside the constructor for this processor, we're actually just going to assign data to that map variable. So department names dot put. I mean, you guys can put these as whatever you want for names, but I'm just going to do is department 1 will be named technology, the technology department. Department 2, we'll call operations. Department 3, mistake, okay. also take care of filling our department names map. And then within our process method, we are going to get rid of that return there. And instead, we're just going to throw down here, return user. And so we're going to alter the data of this user that's being passed in, and then return the same user with the altered data. So that's why you can just throw this down here for now, so you don't have any errors popping up. So what we're going to do, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to get the department code string from the user that's being passed in. So you can do user.get department, and that'll give us the digit form in the string. And then you're going to create another variable called department name. You can do department names dot get department code. That'll give us the specific name for the department. Then we can use user dot set department to the department name. We're altering the data, switching it out. And then just to see it within the console, when this is actually being done during the batch process, we're going to create a system print. We're going to use the printf, so the print format, and type converted from you don't have to use print format, but I've gotten used to it a lot more lately, and I'm actually enjoying it in some ways. Instead of doing all the pluses and splits in between all the strings, to me this is a lot easier if you know the specific order, or if you know how to actually specify what variables are going where. I don't know that much yet, but
I used the without the brackets and they still work. I never used
yeah,
it before.
it does. It's just encasing it. I saw them do it in the printout, and I think it looks nicer because you only look at the brackets to see the difference. I don't know. I kept it just to specify the data differently. But yes, you can do it without this. You don't need the brackets in there.
It's a pretty good idea, though. I kind of like how
It's
that-
visually visually pleasing when you're looking at your console, to me at least. And then right here, we're just returning this user after we've changed the department to the department name. We're going to move on to writer next, but I want, if anyone needs more time, obviously say so.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Yep.
And those are both percentages S's within the brackets?
Yes. Yeah, so the percent, to specify what the data type that's going to be in the string, you do percent. So percent %S is for string, percent I is for integer. Is that how that works? Oh, Jim, I think.
I think
Yes,
it's,
percent n can also be number,
I think it's
Oh.
a percent D
or percent d for digit.
of a digit.
Okay.
Hmm.
So that you definitely look up print format, Java print
Yes.
format.
It's very nice, and it was inspired by C. The C language actually
Oh,
has
really?
printf. Yep.
I didn't know that.
All right, I'm good.
No one expects you to know that.
Yeah.
I
like
know that
it.
because I did C. It was one of my languages that I learned in. So, because when you get down to if you code in bare basic C, you learn a lot of crazy things. It's very, very explicit.
Yeah, I bet. All right, David, you said you were done. Does anyone else need some more time? All right. Inside the batch package, we're going to create another file, another class called the writer. Same as process, we're going to give it the at component annotation. And similarly, we are going to implement the item writer interface with user as the target type. we are going to implement the write method from this interface. And before we move on into here, we're just going to go back up and create a variable quick, which is going to be our repository, our user repository. Excuse me, so we can access the methods for actually doing any the CRUD forms in our database. So, creating some save, delete, post, stuff like that. We're going to give it the auto-wired annotation. Use repository. I'm going to use a repository. And then inside of here, we'll just do a printout quick. You can just say data saved to users. Oh, look at me, I'm going back on myself now. I'm doing this. But so this is going to be red only because it's the parameter is named list. You can change this to users. For our case, because we're actually taking in a list of users, and this will just print out the information to us so we can see it inside the console when it's ran. And then we can just do user repository dot save all, because we have a list, and we can pass in users. And this is going to save all that data to our database. File. If anyone needs more time or any questions, please ask.
Just give me a moment.
Without really going in depth and stuff, I've seen this before on the list. What's the question mark extends users? It confuses me, but
So if I understand correctly, the question mark, I saw this a while ago. It's all right, Cliff, step in. I don't remember what it is. I think it means it's.
is it a wild card?
I think that's what it's called. Because it means it doesn't know the type, but it's taking.
It takes
Whatever
any type
type.
that extends user. It'll take any type that is of user.
Okay.
So
it is a
anything
wildcard
that's
type
user
thing.
or above,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Or anything that extends users, anything below user.
Oh, below. Okay.
Right.
All
It
right.
extends users. So this is a child. This is user or child of user.
Child of users. Okay.
It might actually just be creating. And the other thing I'm trying to remember right now, if it's a wildcard or if it's considered a nameless object. Or how you have nameless functions. This would be a nameless object, a nameless child object of user. Remember, extends is inheritance, whereas implements is interfacing. So
Yep.
extends is child items. So this might be, my understanding of this actually isn't wildcard, but it's more of just this is a object that extends user but is not user technically. If you get the point
That's
I'm trying to say.
interesting.
It is a child class of user, but it doesn't technically have a name. It's a bit interesting. It's definitely something to look into why you do it. I'm not actually sure why it's needed, but it's a cool concept. But yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Cliff. All right, David, how you doing?
Good, man. Go ahead.
Good. All right, we are going to create our last package and file, and we're going to name the package controller. And we are just going to name the class within this package load controller. So this is just like you guys have done with any other mapping and REST controllers for Spring Boot projects. This is going to be the trigger for our batch process to actually be executed, because every batch process needs some sort of trigger executed. This is going to be ours. It's going to be a request to a certain path. Service. So we just give it the annotation REST controller.
Hey, Christian,
Yo,
I'm getting an error
where
on writer for the save all.
okay. Does yours look just like mine first?
Yes.
Okay. Do you mind sharing your screen quick?
Oh, wait a minute. Let me redo this. Give me a second.
Okay. Because it could have something to do with the repository not being
All right, it's going. It's
right.
working.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sharing the screen, right?
Yep.
All right. So back in the load controller. So it's using the @rest controller annotation, and then next is going to be the request mapping annotation. Then we're going to say @path load. So it's going to be localhost :8080/load is when this controller is going to be used for any for the requests. And we just need to now auto wire using the auto wire annotation, our job launcher, which we didn't create a job launcher, we created a job back in our it was within our batch configuration. But this job launcher is going to be looking for a job, so we're going to auto wire as again job and job. Make sure you annotate the correct job, which is .batch.core. And this is going to be looking for inside of our Spring Batch config, because we named that, gave it the annotation enable batch processing. It's going to be taking our job that we created and handing it to the job launcher when it tries to do its thing. I don't know exactly what its thing is, but I mean, it makes sense. I hope. All right, next we're just going to create a single method. It's going to be a get mapping method. So use the get mapping annotation. And it's going to be, the name of the method is going to be load, and it's going to return a batch status. So this batch status is a string. It says whether the, what is it, for? Yes. A batch status is a string whether it says whether it was completed or if it failed. We are going to use that. That's going to be displayed on the page, the /load page, just for our use, so we know whether or not it failed. All right, and so the first thing we are going to create is our job execution. Yeah, we'll do that first, because we have to build off that with some other things within this, but we'll do job execution first. So it's its own class. Name it job execution. And this is where we use our job launcher, and we use its .run method. And we are going to be passing in the job auto-wired class. Well, it's function. Because it is a function from the Spring Batch configuration. I assume class, but that's not right. So it is a function, and then we need parameters. You don't technically need any parameters, but if you want any more information being passed into this execution to see in your batch process, this is where you can do it. We're just going to create one parameter just to see the process of doing it. right now we'll name this parameters. And it's going to be red because we need to create them. So above this job execution variable, we're going to create another one with type job parameters. Name it parameters. And we're going to create a new instance of job parameters. This class needs to take in a map of job parameters. So we are going to pass in, I just call it map. And we are going to create that variable now as well, which is a map with a key and value of string to the key. So that's where you put the name of the parameter, like how you do auth key for a header for a request. This is where you name the parameter, and then it's going to have the value is going to have a type of job parameter. So you import map and name it map. Set equal to a new hash map. Enter. And we're just going to assign one property to this, or I should say one key value pair, and it is going to be map.put. We're going to name it time. And you're going to say new job parameter. And you're going to pass in system.current time milliseconds. So what this is going to do is inside of our batch process, if you were to look at its job parameters, I'm not sure how to access those specifically within the batch process. I'm sure it's within here that you could print them out, but because we're using our H2 console, our H2 database, when we execute this and it actually writes the data to the database, we can see where this is being put in to its own table. It creates quite a few tables, and we'll look at that at the end. And then below, so your run method is going to be underlined with red. If you right click on it and hit show context actions, there are quite a few exceptions that need to be added to this method. So if you just click on them, it'll actually put them in automatically for us. So we don't have to worry about it. And then if you want the job, the batch status to be shown in your console, you can do system.out and just say job execution and say job execution dot get status. That's what returns us the completed or failed string, and then we will just actually return job execution dot get status, and that will be what is displayed on the page in a JSON format, I'm pretty sure, or it could just be a string text form, plain text format as well. I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but we'll see when we run it. And our program is complete. Our process is complete. I'll leave this here a little longer. Anyone that needs the information for it. And then,
1 second.
what is that? Back up?
Just 1 second. Just finishing that up right there.
Right here, okay. And then if everybody wants to, just head back. If you're ready, go back to your batch processing main file and hit the run. Your terminal will pop up. Make sure at the bottom, the last thing before, after it runs, it should just say it's connected 8080 and that it had a process time of such and such milliseconds or whatever. And then go into your browser and
I'm ready.
meet you guys there. All right. So head over to this. Click this run. Terminal is going to pop up. Inside of here, we're gonna get, all right, so we say it is up and running. And then if you go into your browser and go to localhost 8080 /h2 console and hit enter, brings us to this. If you guys remember, Richie also had this, was using this when he was teaching Hibernate. And then if you hit connect, make sure this JDBC URL is set to JDBC H2 mem and test database. And then you can hit connect. I'll wait till everyone's here. Or if you guys are just looking along with me, let me know if you need any more time.
What's the password? The essay password?
There should be no password. Did it let you in?
No.
What's it saying?
Saying database user David Jones test not found.
Can you share your screen quick? All right, so your JDBC URL, change that, whatever that squiggly is, the tilde /test after there, it should be JDBC :H2 :MEM, short for memory. No, my bad. After the H2 colon should be MEM. Yeah, so, and then colon, get rid of that /, and then after test, do DB for database.
:DB.
Nope, just DB right after test. And now hit connect.
Okay.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, for some reason, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't have that different one. But once you set it to test DB, it should always be that. All right, so inside of here, like I was saying, there's a lot of tables that get created. The last one should be user. That's the table that we created. There's going to be nothing in it, but if you guys want to follow along or just watch my screen so you guys don't have to type all this too, I just want to show case a little bit of information that this actually puts out for us. And there's going to be that one. Oh. Batch. Sort. I'm not going to do all of them actually. Execution. I'll just do those two. So each one of these actually have like a ton of information in them. As you can see, like execution, version, create time, all this stuff. If I run this right now, if you guys run it, it's going to be empty. There's nothing in it. But if you create another window and do localhost 8080/load, and you hit enter and you go into it, you'll see that we get the, oh, so it is JSON. String saying completed. Everyone do this and just see if you get completed or failed. If anyone gets failed, I just want to see what might be wrong. But you should get a completed status. And if you go back to your H2 console and you hit run again, you'll actually see that the database was filled. The user database was filled with reporting IDs. You'll see that the departments are actually the names now instead of the numbers, or I should say the number string inside of our CSV file. And the names are in the correct column as well. So pretty much what we did was we took in a CSV file and we altered a piece of the data from one of the columns, the department number, changed it to a department name, and then wrote that data into the database. And to actually trigger the batch process, we went to a certain URL and that triggered it to be ran. Inside of our terminal, you can see that there's a lot of stuff going on where it says right here, it's running the actual job, the ETL load that we created. You can see it's executing the step that we created, ETL file load. You can see the printout for where it's where we put the printout where it's converting 001 to technology, and 002 to operations, 003 to accounting, and that the data was saved. The users, it's printing out their I don't remember what that's called, but it's not the actual information for the user. It's their class location or in memory
Object
location.
address.
Object address. And then it's
Yeah, if you
saying
look at the
that-
very end of each of those items, they have the at and then a hexadecimal code. That is the address in memory. So it's saying at
oh,
this
one's
address.
memory. Gotcha. Then it's running it's saying that this is when it was executed. So it's executing, it finished being executed after a certain amount of time.
So, yeah, that's past tense. You know, it's executed in 130
Yeah.
milliseconds. So it did that batch in 130 milliseconds. So
And then it loaded it into the database. That's what this portion was, and that was completed. And that's why we got the completed job execution status here. If you guys don't mind waiting a second, if you see here where so I do want to show like the difference in. So if I do this and then because we don't have anything specific with our
no uniques.
no uniques or anything like that, it's not going to matter that we have a bunch of the same ones. But I just want to show that even with like 163 pieces of data, if I go back into this configuration file and put, let's say the chunk size is 1, and then run it, which I know
So a
that's
chunk size of 20.
all right. we'll
So
do
we can
20.
actually see a chunk, of course.
Yes, very good one. Then I run that. Rerun. Wait for the server to get up and running. It's running. Into the browser. Refresh. Oh, and it failed. Fantastic. Why did it fail? Why did it fail? Interesting.
Probably not a carriage return somewhere. You probably pasted bad. There it goes. Go up a little bit. Scroll up a little bit. Up a little bit. Keep going. Keep going. Almost there.
Oh my
Of course.
gosh.
Wait, here we are. IDs for this class will need this time before calling save.
Oh, maybe
Okay.
the IDs do have to be different.
The IDs maybe need to be unique. Okay.
Okay.
One
Alright,
will probably mention
Yeah,
that.
because they use the at ID symbol. So
Yeah.
it has to be unique.
What you
Alright.
could have done for this as well is we could have just something you could have thought of earlier. Something if you wanted to do that for Thursday, just refresh is have something that will just auto generate the 3 items. There's actually what's really cool. Actually, something I should probably mention is that online there are some tools to create mock data in a CSV file format. So you can actually get like demo mock data from a couple
Oh,
sites.
awesome.
So you could actually get tell it I want an ID, a username, and a something else, and have it create all that for you and create a file like 1,000 items, and you just download and use it. So that is something that
Oh, that's
definitely
awesome.
look into. There's tons of those tools out there to generate mock data, and that's literally what you want to Google for. And so if you don't know if you want to do that for Thursday and just do the quick little demo of the 20 batch file item with one of those, that'd be the great way to start class. So
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
can
going to say
definitely do
actually is if anyone else, of course, wants to try that themselves, go for it. But what he was going to pretty much showcase is going to process them 20 at a time. And so you can see, if you go back to the top, I think you might be able to see that it's creating multiple jobs somewhere. Somewhere it'll tell you it's running multiple jobs. Can't say where, but it definitely, like you see, I think right there is where you were seeing some of them, maybe. But, yeah.
No, it just keeps saying that it keeps converting.
Yeah,
I might
yeah.
have to log that somewhere, but you
Probably.
can see that because it's doing all these each time, it is
Mhm.
doing 20 in intervals of 20.
Now,
And
I
then
was
if it
wondering
actually
though,
passed, yeah, go.
I was wondering on one thing. Did you actually use a batch processing system that worries about race conditions or no?
I'm not sure. I
So race
use
conditions
Spring
is
Batch.
that, yeah, race conditions is that concept. I think we talked about it before where let's say me and my wife are at two different ATMs. We have a debit card linked to the same bank account that has $300 in it. We'll just say that for whatever, so that no one can be like, well, that's not how much you can pull out of an ATM. So we both put our card in at the same time. We make sure that we time out. We've practiced this multiple times. We enter the PIN number at the same time, and we both do a $300 withdrawal at the exact same time. How does the system know not to give out two $300 systems? And that's a race condition. When my request goes and hits the server first, because let's say my ATM is a little closer to the server, so my request hits the server first and starts processing, but then the server that she connects to might have less people running on it, so her server runs faster. So she hits her server maybe a half a millisecond later than mine, but mine still starts first. So I'm starting the process, then hers hits, she starts the process. As far as she knows, the balance is still there because mine hasn't finished the process, so it tries it, but then she finishes early. She finishes first, takes the money out, mine then finishes, but yet I still have the funds, so I just take out yet another 300. If you don't handle race conditions. This is that idea that two requests can come in either the same or different times, and it can also finish either the same or different times. One of the systems that should trigger is that when one request hits, it locks that account. And so when her request hits the server, it says, no, there's already there's already a request hitting this, you need to wait. So that's what a lot of banks will do. As soon as one ATM request hits, even just to say, hey, I need the data, it will lock that in for a certain amount of time or until the ATM says, yep, we're done. And that's kind of those are the ways to handle race conditions. So with this system, because you have multiple batches processing data at different rates, some batch systems have to be careful not to finish first and finish later, especially if you want to maintain the order. So that's one of those things you got to be careful of. And so those are things just to be aware of in your mind. One batch could process this data faster than another batch. And it is that, I just lost my headphones. One second. The cable just fell out. What was it saying? All right. So sometimes you got to wonder, is that okay to happen? Is that allowed? Is that okay? And so there are some batch processes that also handle the batch processing where it says, I'm going to process my data, but I won't push it until the previous job finishes, and then I will complete myself or something like that. So there are a lot of tools for that. And again, there's a lot of different ways you can get into this, but I will say one major thing, great work on this tutorial. This one's going to be really, really useful for you guys for your capstone project. With a combination of batch processing and even Evan's multi-threading, using these two tools in some way, either together or separate, multi-threading or batch processing, both together, a portion of each, by utilizing these tools in some way. I can't tell you, I'm not going to tell you which one will be the best option. This is up to you to figure out and to show that you tried it and to give you those skills. This is going to help you figure out how to process that 6 million record data set on your capstone project really quickly, where again, one of our students got it to less than, I think, to like a couple seconds. She was able to process 6 million records. So it's definitely doable with the tools we've given you. It's up to you to just kind of see what's my base without using any special tools, just reading the system one by one using, what was it? I think it was, don't remember who did the file reading. I think that was Chang did file reading. The file reading system where you read the file in. Doing that just based on normal with no batch processing, no multi-threading, just reading it, sending it into the database and getting kind of a baseline of how long that takes. And then trying these new capabilities, these new items you're seeing here and seeing how much improvement you make and being able to evaluate, well, with this process, I was able to cut my time in half, or I was able to improve my performance by 1,000%. So my first attempt took us 3 minutes. This took 30 seconds. So yeah. I was massively able to improve my performance. So that's kind of the idea you're kind of looking for with this capstone project. As you work on the big data part of it, you're kind of showcasing how your performance improved and that you're able to analyze that and track that information. But this is going to be a huge one for you. I'm going to make sure I get both videos up. Luckily, I didn't crash, but even then, I think with the cloud recording, even if I did, I wouldn't have lost it like with the normal local recording. So I'm going to have to see if I have to upload them as 2 parts or if I can merge them and then upload them. But if I have to upload them as 2 parts, I will. But I'll get those and get those up there as soon as I can. Any questions, Christian?
Yes, please ask away.
Or most likely, probably something you might need to go through the video again, do it again before you have questions for them on Thursday, probably. So we can also do that. But before you go, yeah, any questions tonight?
Yeah, I'm just I'm getting an error. It's saying that it didn't that there's an issue.
All right.
With the normal process or with the
The
update?
load process, it's saying that there's a parsing error for line 2.
Share your screen.
So right here.
Parsing a line 2 URL. Okay, so it's saying, can you go to, this is .csv, 1 Cliff. Oh, it's all separated correctly. Go to Spring Batch, no, go to, yeah, Spring Batch configuration quick. And scroll down, you have set lines to skip as 1. Okay, go to your application.properties quick. File users. You might have to specify what drive you're in. Oh, wait, no, because it's saying it is going into the CSV file because it's error at line 2. Go back to your configuration file. Maybe there's something wrong with the delimiter. Scroll down a little. A little more. ID, in department, user class, scroll down a little more. That should just be assigning, yep, the tokenizer, the set buffer.
Can I look at the error message a little more again? I was actually kind of seeing if it tells us what the parsing error was. Because you know it says parsing error at line 2 in the resource, but what is the parsing error? Scroll to the right.
Yeah, trying to do that, moving this thing out of the way.
So yeah, it
Input
doesn't like
one
the first
Cliff.
record. Why?
So there's something. It's reading it as a CSV file. Let me
Is anybody else doing this on a Mac? Did they get the same error or did they not get an error in the class?
check something really quick.
Because it might be the return carriage because it's a Mac.
That's what I'm wondering. Actually, I was actually just
I was thinking about that right now. It just hit me, you know, because it happens to me all the time at work.
Is there a configuration you have to do in the line tokenizer or in the CSV figure and something in here to read Mac new line characters?
Really quick, David, can you go into your settings from the file up top left? And what you get there? Oh, preferences. That's fine. And then go into, once it loads. Did you click it?
Yep. You don't see it?
We don't see the window because he's sharing
no.
the
He's sharing the
window,
main.
not the desktop. Yeah, you didn't share desktop. You shared the IntelliJ window, so you can't see any pop-ups. Yeah.
Right, go into link. Go at the search bar. Type in CSV. At the search for that. Wait, which one did I type in? Oh, that's weird. On the left side one. The one, yeah, on that side, type CSV. All right, and hit the first general under editor, CSVT, yeah. It hasn't set the comma. Usage text. No comment. That doesn't make sense. It is set to the right settings.
All right. Well, I'll look. I'll try to look for a fix for the error.
I
Yeah,
just
I'm
don't,
afraid that your thought process was right, that it's probably the Mac new line characters. So you also may just use an online CSV generator and download the file.
Yeah.
So you get the other line returns. But yeah,
The other
definitely
thing you
check
could
them out.
try too is just downloading the CSV plugin.
I just did.
On,
I think that's what he's using.
like, oh, you are using the plugin
Yeah,
for it?
the plugin's
Downloaded it?
there. He had it under the plugin.
Oh,
So can you click on the plugin actually? See if there's any settings for new line? The bottom of the left side. See the plugins there? Click on that. You get the CSV plugin and the settings for that, or can you? Oh, I don't know if you can set settings for that. It just enables it or disables
yeah,
it.
top right of CSV plugin. No,
Oh, the
down to
gear
the right.
icon. I see it
I'm
now.
opening the menu on the right. Just give me a second.
To the left of the installed. Yeah, sorry. And to the left of the word installed is a gear icon. No,
Oh no, I thought to the one
not
on the
there.
CSV.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I got annotation. Hold on.
Oh, that's it. Wow, that's strange. Actually,
Look at the
if you don't mind doing-
settings.
there's- that's in depth right there.
That's
Can you
intense.
can you hit cancel quick
Oh, jeez.
and go into your CSV file?
So you did need that plugin? Am I just,
No, I don't think you need it. Can you hit the table editor on the bottom? Right, yeah.
Those are two
Man, it's all in
texts.
the table. That is so
Yeah.
so strange.
No, so again, what you're probably not misunderstanding is that Mac and Windows use different new line characters. So a lot of you are familiar with the /n. What
Yeah.
Windows and Mac use are different ones. The actual ASCII, I believe it's the ASCII code or the Unicode for it is different between Mac and Windows, and that's what me and David are thinking is the problem here. That somewhere there's a configuration issue somewhere. Now the configuration issue might be actually just on one of those, like the line editor or the CSV parser, whatever is using it, might need to have a setting enabled saying use Mac line returns. So it might be by default using Windows line returns. So that's what I'm wondering. So like I said, there's an option that there's also the chance that David could just go to one of these CSV generators online, paste this data into it and have it saved as a CSV file that is Windows based. And then that would fix it probably. So that's what we're thinking the problem is, unfortunately. But we'll take a look into it. We're already almost 9:30, aren't we? I think we're getting close.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You,
That's good. Like I said, this is going to be a very good tutorial for you guys for
yeah, great job, Chris.
the final project. So
Thanks,
it's going to be really, really
Good job,
useful.
Cristiano.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Chris,
Cristiano.
Yeah.
Throwing some Spanish in
Doesn't
there.
work doesn't work to do thumbs up when your video is closed off. So yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Very good job. This is going to be very helpful for everyone. Make sure you guys save this one. So yeah, I'll be trying to get this video up ASAP so you guys have it. Hopefully Evan will
I
be
think
feeling
Jim had a
good.
question.
What's that?
yeah,
Jim, do you have a question?
Go
yeah.
for it.
I was just asking the question about speed. Were you referring to that each thread like brings in a certain amount of data on each thread in batching?
We're not dealing with threads in this.
Not threads,
No,
yeah.
but that was my question though.
Yeah, we're not dealing with threads.
Yeah.
So
Right now,
yeah.
we're just dealing with one job that can take
Mhm.
in
I
different
know,
amount
I
of
know.
chunks
When
of
you guys
data.
said
Yeah.
about, speed, about speeding up the batch process, that was my question. But
Well, that's something I meant to say. That's something you get to experiment with, play with it, and see if you can do multi-bot batching to make sure that you have multiple processors. So you have multiple job workers. So you can have multiple processors processing batches at the same time, and that will have to deal with the race conditions. If you have a single processor processing all the batches, then it will process one batch, then move on to the next, then move on to the next, then move on to the next. And so you never have to worry about race conditions. And of course, it's going to take it as long as it takes because it's not going to really speed up. But if you have multiple workers working on the whole batch process, that can speed up the process. But again, then you have to consider race conditions and managing them, making sure that when one job pulls from the batch, that no one else is going to pull that same item. accidentally. So none of the processors know that each batch is being pulled and that each processor knows what batches are left to be processed. So
Right.
no one accidentally processing one. So that's, again, this is you're starting with the basic level with Christian, so that you can then play with it moving forward. You now have the basics you need to build a batch processor and go with it. And it's up to you to kind of really play with it, see what you can do to make it run the importer faster. Now, like I said, is this the best way to get the fastest speed on your data processing? Not going to say. That's up to you to find out. I've given you two main ways of doing this, not to say that there aren't others you could possibly find online by doing research for big data processing. But the two main items is this one, which is batch processing, and then multi-threading are two major items part of Java that you can handle and take advantage of for processing large amounts of data. Using both a combination will give you some good results that you'll be able to play around with and figure out what works. Part of this was inspired by the final project one of the final projects in C for CS50, which was the spell checker that I used to do, where they told us that you could do a spell checker using either a hash map or a trie, which is a type of tree system, but wouldn't tell you which one was going to be better overall, which one would be faster. That was not part of the process. You were supposed to research both, figure out which one you wanted to use that you thought would be faster, but also which one do you think you could actually implement as well. So you had the choice. And so same thing here. I don't want everyone creating the exact same system, but how you guys work together. And if you do create the same system, that's fine. But the idea is to invoke collaboration, communication, and research. You guys have to dig into the stuff. So, because this is what you're going to run into in the real world. You're going to run into a problem that needs to be solved, and you're going to see that there's multiple ways to approach this. So it's up to you to figure out which approach should I use, which approach am I going to try out. So this is very much based on just a real world problem you're going to run into. You're going to need to figure out how to solve something. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 8 different ways of solving it. And it's up to you to figure out what tool to try out, what tool to use, and how do you evaluate, is this the best tool to use? So, sound good? Yeah, so again, Evan, hopefully he'll be feeling better on Thursday. I'm going to unlock I'll be posting the Dragon's Keep into Slack and on Classroom tonight. So you guys can start working on that. Like I said, the due date for that will be on Tuesday. You need to have the resume in by Tuesday, the latest. Of course, the sooner the better, but get the resume built for Tuesday so that the first day we don't have a self-teaching lesson, we can review it.
So our resumes are due Tuesday of next week.
Yes, because that's the first day we don't have a student lesson. On Thursday, we're hoping to have Evan, and on Monday, it's Will with AI. So look forward to it. All right. So yeah, you have a week to work on it. Again,
Just resumes, right?
what's that?
Just resumes due on Tuesday, nothing else?
So far, yes. Like I said,
Okay.
I would still keep working on your capstone projects. We'll probably review them a bit more again, maybe on Thursday or on Monday. We'll review them again a little more. We'll keep checking in on those. Those are definitely something you want to keep working on because you want to finish those as soon as possible. And again, if you have nothing else to work on, by all means, start building projects for your resume. Start creating things that can go on your resume, things that I'm not telling you to build. You have a bunch of tools. You have JavaScript, you have Mern, you have Spring Boot now, you have Java, you have React from the past and other front-end frameworks you can play with. Build things. 100%, you should be building things for your resume that are outside of what I've asked you to build, because those can sometimes be more impactful than you building what I've built and even going beyond those. So that's what you really want to make sure you're doing if you have any free time that you don't have, when you're thinking like, well, I have some time, I don't have a class item that I need to do. You have stuff to create. You need to start building out your portfolio for your resume now. That's what the main focus is today. And again, starting next week, we're probably going to start talking about the same coding challenges that the morning students are doing, where we want to try to create something within 2 to 3 days. You want to create a whole new project for your resume. But again, we'll start talking about that next week. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Two
All
things.
right, everybody. What's
I
that?
got 2 things. One is if anybody needs help with their gateway, they can just private message me and I can get together with them and help them out. In case if we don't want to do a whole like school thing or don't want to do a whole meeting, if they just want to do a one-on-one thing, I'll help them out on a one-on-one.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
And the second thing is I mean, I know we're not going this way, but I mean, is another C# project good enough to use as well?
Of course, it's a new project, but make sure you have your focus right now is on Java.
Yeah, I know it's
because
on Java
those are
and
the companies
stuff,
we're going
but-
for. Yeah, not to say that there aren't any companies out that are using C#, but yeah, if you have one that you can put on there. If you
I
just
know,
pick
but
it up a
it's
bit,
just,
fine.
I was just more thinking of just, brushing it up, just trying to make another project out of it,
that's
just
fine.
to make sure that my brain is still like in that frame of that too as
Yeah,
well.
that's fine.
But okay.
All right. I will see everybody on Thursday. Have a good night
Alrighty.
and enjoy your Wednesday. Take care.
Peace.
See you, buddy.
Uh,